Right, and we are live. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. Max Verstappen winning the 2024 Spanish Grand Prix. A bit of a masterclass in not panicking, I think, from him. Massive news of Lewis Hamilton back on the podium. He came in at third place, second place for Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, our race winner, who was being hunted down by Lando Norris, but thankfully for him, the race not being another 4 to 5 laps. But Lando Norris, what an effort for him. Reckons the car had enough to do it and blames his start for the reason that he did not manage to bring it home for the win. So we're going to do a vote for driver of the day. And your options are going to be Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and who you're looking at over here. Sergio Perez went up 3 positions. Ricciardo went up 3 positions. Piastri went up 2 positions. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, Sergio Perez with going up 3 positions. Maybe Oscar Piastri going up, getting past the 2 Alpines. But I mean, you kind of expect those guys to go up the 2 Alpines. Daniel Ricciardo with 3. Any suggestions, yeah, people? In fact, I'm actually might just make it those 2, to be honest. I mean, Charles Leclerc, almost. If he had gotten into that 4th place, I think he would have been up for it. But at the end of the day, he just beat Carlos Sainz. They didn't change position. Neither did Hamilton, to be fair. So we'll just put those 3 in. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, driver of the day. Options. Make sure you go and vote as Hamilton goes and celebrates with his teammates. Classy from Lewis Hamilton, and it needed as well because, Lando Norris had the pace and was really, really pushing hard. I felt that Red Bull got the pit timing right, and Lando Norris, by his own admission, I think it just didn't start well enough. The fact that he was down, that George Russell went to that first, and they dropped so far back quickly. If he wasn't second, for example, and I think wasn't backed up by George Russell, then I think that Lando Norris would have been very, very competitive. I think that was the problem. He then brought down a large gap from between him and Verstappen. Was up to like 9 seconds. He brought it down to like 4. And then he pitted and had the same kind of thing, managed to bring it down once again. But at the end of the day, it was always that little bit too far behind Max Verstappen to be able to really come through and challenge. So, but a good race for Lando Norris, who is starting to get a bit of a name for himself. Is he yet becoming potential future champion material? Well, before this race, before the season, he had the I think it's actually the record for the highest number of podiums without winning a race, and he now has won a race. He's competitive, and I tell you what, the big thing about McLaren is that they're looking fast. Oscar Piastri coming through ahead of Sergio Perez, not managing to trouble the Ferraris, but Lando Norris proving that this McLaren has got pace and genuine pace. Not just, we can kind of come through at second pace, could genuinely contend. The big news, I think, for Mercedes is that they're back. Third for Hamilton, fourth for Russell. A 3-4 is a really good weekend for them. It'll help their charge, and the constructors, will gain a little bit on McLaren, not much, but with them finishing a couple of places ahead of Piastri, they will obviously gain a lot on Ferrari. Will Mercedes, so it could very well be on the back of Ferrari, and Ferrari won't really gain on Red Bull because Verstappen finishing first, Sergio Perez gained that 8th. If Perez was outside the points, then they could have gained. But so a very disappointing weekend for Ferrari. A couple more laps. Maybe Charles Leclerc was within half a second of George Russell by the time he came in, but I think his first stint they got the strat wrong. Not the best pits either from Ferrari. So it's frustrating because Ferrari keeps threatening to be semi-competitive. They keep threatening to do something, after winning Monaco, but they just keep making poor decisions, don't they? And I think that's where McLaren needs to be applauded, where they're making themselves competitive. They're getting the right decisions. They're going with the right strategies. They're contending with a Red Bull outfit, which hasn't been matched really in the last 18 months. And they're now starting to announce themselves that, first of all, McLaren as a team are firmly back. but and more than just they've got a car that's reasonable. You know, they've got a driver that is top class. They've got strategies which are top class alongside a car which can compete. So it's positive if you're a McLaren fan. And I think exciting times ahead for McLaren. Very interested to see how things will go after the summer break, which we've got coming up in August. You know, how will teams respond? For example, I mean, Mercedes seem to have flipped the switch, haven't they? They realized they were doing something wrong, and by their own admission, they then realized it and they flipped the switch, and all of a sudden you had Hamilton and Russell there, and you know, in that sort of top 5 race. Hamilton now on the podium. We've had George Russell on the podium. So very, very promising for Mercedes. Too early to say they might be back in inverted commas, but as I say, I think the Constructors' Championship could get very interesting because Sergio Perez, whilst he did gain 3 places, he was you know, outside the points. So the fact that he did score points was important, but he's just not in the same caliber as Max Verstappen. And I think the nice thing is that this Red Bull isn't so obviously dominant that you don't have to drive that well and you cream everybody else. You know, you're not going to beat Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes unless you drive well. And that's the big thing. At the moment, you feel that all the mentioned team, you know, your Piastri's, Norris, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, you feel they're all currently driving better than Sergio Perez, and their cars are competitive enough where where they will beat him. And Sergio Perez now needs to understand he has to go out and he has to drive well. He cannot just assume that the car's going to get him to the end of the race ahead of these teams. He's going to have to fight for it. You know, today he was fighting against Alpines. And credit to both Alpines who came through with points. Gasly with points. Ocon, after being, you know, let go, you know, came through with points today as well. So, you know, I think if you look at the constructors, Alpine was sitting in 8th place. And today they've beaten Aston Martin, they've beaten RB, and they've beaten Haas. So they had only scored 5 points in the constructors' standings before today. So that'll be a good result for them. They'll go ahead of Haas, and they'll start to catch up to RB. Aston Martin still quite well ahead, but a nice race for Alpine for both those drivers to be in the points. So it's good to see that they've improved. I like to see Pierre Gasly. I mean, just didn't have the grip at the end there to hold off Sergio Perez, but was looking a lot better. I'm a big Pierre Gasly fan, so it was nice to see that he can potentially be quite competitive. But going to the comments, Cora saying, great commentary through the race. Thank you very much. Yanni saying Perez won the battle against Alpine. I mean, literally. And TCC saying Russell would be very disappointed. He doesn't like finishing behind his teammates, especially actually at the race day at a stage. I just didn't have the grip, to be honest, and was actually under threat from Charles Leclerc. If that race had gone on a little bit longer, it would have very much have been a proper wheel-to-wheel action. And to be honest, I think it would have been likely that Leclerc would have probably overtaken him. So lucky that I think they got the strategy wrong there with Russell. Did Merck, and it didn't prove too costly in the end, but I mean 300th of a second, that's how close Charles Leclerc was to overtaking Russell. But I mean, Lando Norris, fastest lap as well. If you look at the individual standings, I think that might be him ahead of Charles Leclerc. Yep, he is officially ahead. That has officially been updated, so he does move ahead of Charles Leclerc. 70 points behind Max Verstappen. He's going to keep that lead, but I want to see if the teams have been updated over here. Yeah, the teams have been updated, and there it is. Alpine going ahead of Haas with their 3 points today. So good work from them. They're still quite far behind RB, but getting 3 points. They had 5 before today, so they almost doubled their points with one race. So both those, I mean, if they just continue finishing in the points, you know, the likes of an RB didn't get any points today. Aston Martin didn't get any points today. So slowly but surely they can try and make a bit of ground. But thank you very much for joining me, by the way, throughout the weekend. We've got a poll saying who's your driver of the day. We're going to finish it over here. It's actually a tie between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, which I think maybe could be a bit fair. I think Lando Norris was the exciting one with regards to the way that he was trying to catch Max Verstappen, trying to get back into the race. But at the end of the day, he did start first. So Max Verstappen did technically find a place. And I think rewatching the start here, this is where it all went pear-shaped for Lando Norris. Got caught, then tried to block George Russell, which allowed Verstappen down the inside. I think if Lando Norris led the race for the first 2 laps, it could have been an interesting race, and it could have been something could have been on. But not the case. People, do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you for joining me throughout the weekend. We will see you guys all next weekend for lots more action. We'll have some videos throughout the week as well. So make sure you keep yourself locked on the channel for all the latest updates. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve.